The Why Me Project, an exclusive presentation of Faith Strong Today.
If you look over the last 3 weeks, Holly, Riley said Janet.
Right.
Then Lisa said Alicia.
Yep.
And now Mike was like, hey, you need to talk to Hannah. So the Projector family are coming out full force saying, talk to these individuals. And as long as they say yes, we are totally cool with it.
So far, so good.
So, Hannah Deacon, thank you for saying yes.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Before we get started, I figured that I wanted to ask you a couple questions to kind of just see if I'm on the right path. I mean, you're a dietitian and a fitness specialist. If this morning I had the option between 2 eggs or a handful of pretzels, what would have been my better choice?
I love it. I love it. And honestly, my approach is so individualized based on everybody's goals. And in certain situations, the eggs is the better choice. And in other situations, like athletes, or if, you're going for, a run after and whatnot, pretzels might be the better choice. So
does his body look like I'm an athlete? I'm not an athlete. Okay, then let me ask you this. 2 cups of water in the morning or 2 liters of water that is disguised as pop?
I'm going to have to go for that water.
Are you sure? I mean...
But it was 2 liters.
Actually, a really good habit that I tell my clients about is starting the day with water, because a lot of times I see people starting their day with coffee. And that's dehydrating when, you just slept all night and our body's just really craving that water. So, I would start with those 2 cups of water.
There you go. The water is good, except for me, but not for everyone I work with.
No. All right.
Johnny can attest.
So I think we should ask our skill testing question to start. As we had mentioned, you're a dietitian and a fitness specialist, but you don't get there overnight. So let's start from the beginning. And that is, Hannah, who are you and where did you come from?
Yes, I'm Hannah Deacon from Edmonton, Alberta. And I am a registered dietitian, certified personal trainer. I am a craving change facilitator. I'll explain what that is. So I am in my private practice a mindset and weight loss coach, and I'm also an author of my cookbook, Wellness on a Plate, When Healthy Meets Quick. So what a craving change facilitator is, because I get asked all the time, it's really using cognitive behavior therapy, which is really utilizing the power of how our thoughts and our beliefs actually impact our behaviors. Because in terms of seeing results, it's not really just about eat a salad or, people know that that's the healthy choice. And really this works in every area in life. And I'll talk about how that helped me throughout my journey as well. But the power of our thoughts and our beliefs and how that affects our behavior. So in my private practice, then I help clients change their habits, shift their mindset, and then focusing on nourishing their bodies instead of restricting to achieve results in body composition, but really most importantly, while developing a healthy relationship with food at the same time. And so where I came from or how I got here, and I get asked that all the time, why did you become a dietitian? Why do you do what you do? And this all actually starts from childhood. And I struggled. I was an athlete, and I really struggled with my relationship with food. I struggled with emotional eating, from a very young age, actually. And that's where my mental health journey kind of started. And, fast forward, that kind of led me to the U of A and doing multiple certifications to help people. And that's why I'm super passionate about, why I do what I do and how I help people in that specific, approach. And getting to where I am, took years in the making, and overcoming a lot of hardships, really all the way from childhood, university, graduating, struggling, finding a job, and starting the business, publishing the book during COVID. I'm sure we're going to talk about all those, why me moments. And it's been interesting, the shift in my own mindset, throughout the years from how I used to handle situations before and how I do now. And that all stemmed from the interest I developed in personal growth. I was always listening to some sort of a motivation podcast. I've never given up, and Tony Robbins, Jack Canfield, and others. And that's really helped shift my mindset. And, and anytime I succeeded is when I decided to believe in myself, and believe that you can achieve it and trust in God. Because the biggest thing I learned is that life is happening for me, not to me. And when we think like that, we're less likely to feel overwhelmed, stressed in life, because we trust that God has a plan, and God is always good, is always there, and there's always something better that's going to happen.
Yeah, that's so important, having more of the thrival mentality over the survival or victim mentality. Absolutely. And it's all about your perception on things. And even when you're going through a rough situation, I know for me, I really enjoy carbs. And so if I'm stressed, we're eating the bagels, we're eating the pasta, our comfort food, and yet it makes you feel worse if you get into those sugar cravings, and now you're addicted to sugar, and now you feel all of the things that come along with that when it was just being used as a crutch.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing that. I mean, that's exactly what I talk to my clients about is recognizing in that moment, is this really solving the root cause of the problem? The root cause of the problem might be a challenge with a coworker, or, or stress from something else that we need to resolve. And food, ends up being like, a Band-Aid, or used to numb whatever feeling. And so, I always talk to my clients about, different strategies and a way to approach things, because if there's one thing we know with COVID and everything, that, life throws things at you and you don't know. So it's really about being prepared, and how can we learn from or utilize, any challenge or, in the past, to learn from it and become stronger, so that whatever life throws at us, we can look at it from a different lens and shift those questions. And I'll talk about that later, maybe with the why me moments, but it's how we see things and we view those challenges, and that really impacts how we end up reacting to them.
How old were you when you realized that you had a struggle in a relationship with food?
I was very young. I would say the exact age, probably around 9.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, very, very young. I got my first gold medal in running was when I was 6, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And there was a lot of pressure to perform. And that all came with, a whole lot of body image issues and food. And that's why I love doing what I do, because, I didn't know at the time, nobody was there to tell me what the right way of doing it or how to do things.
Yeah. And it wasn't talked about then either.
No, it wasn't.
It's just, here's your 4 food groups, figure it out.
Yeah,
exactly. So, and now we know more. And that's why when I talk to my clients, I really focus on, why we eat as well. Not just what we eat. We, like I said earlier, we all know, salads are healthy, but it goes deeper than that. And that's why I decided to do multiple other certifications and really learn about, mindset work and behavior change, because that's really the key, is who we become. Because changing our identity, I'm a healthy eater, I'm a fit person, this is what I just do. I like salads versus salads are boring, right? What do we believe about ourselves, food, others really impacts, our decisions and what we end up making. And so the power of the mind, I mean, it's, it's huge.
Yeah.
So at the age of 9, you realize that you have this struggle, this relationship with you and food. When do you start to make a change for, let's say, air quote, the better, and starting making healthier decisions? Or has that kind of been a struggle your whole life?
I no longer struggle with that, but when I was a child, I would say up until the age of 17,
Okay.
it continued being a challenge.
Hmm.
It was a huge struggle. And but I always felt like I gotta find a way. There's gotta be a way. But I didn't know. I was young and I was trying to figure it out. But I knew, I think I was about 14 is when I knew I wanted to become a dietitian. I was like, that's it. I'm helping people with this. And initially it was, trying to figure it out for myself and to help others with it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got into university earlier, so at 17, and I then got into nutrition. And the first couple of years is when I started learning more about it, just being in the program. And throughout those years is when I started kind of working on myself, my relationship with food. And that was around the time when I started doing therapy and working on myself and just learning from different courses and university and so on. And I personally ended up really developing an interest in that. And then just, right around before I graduated and so on, is when I started, healing that relationship with food. And I knew that's then what I wanted to do. And so when I graduated, there were some challenges with finding a job and so on, newly grad. So I worked multiple jobs until certain challenges propelled me to say, that's it. I'm starting my own private practice. And that's 7 years ago now.
Wow.
Yeah. And I absolutely love what I do. I am so happy to be able to help people with that and make a change and an impact. I mean, it really impacts your mood, your relationships with yourself and others. There's a lot of emotions involved when it comes to food. So I'm really happy to be able to help.
I'm just curious though, because I have a 9-year-old daughter in the dance world. How, like as a parent, how do you watch out for signs that your child is struggling with food? Because 9 seems young to me, but it's not. It really isn't, is it?
Yeah. And that's a very good question. And it's a tough one, but I think, I'm sure you know this, but one of the biggest things is being, your child's friend in a way and just being able to have that open communication. I'm not married, I don't have kids, but I work with adults, but, just kind of reflecting on, myself and sharing that is being able to have those conversations and notice certain behaviors like restricting and then binging. This is a big one. Versus saying, I'm not going to eat anything today, or no, I'm going to skip food altogether. Because there's a difference between, we obviously want to teach, we want to teach the kids to listen to their bodies, not force feed or anything like that, because we want them to learn to listen to their body's hunger and fullness. But at the same time, not eating all day is a sign, right? So like, okay, what's going on? And, trying to just talk about it and notice what's happening. I think that's just, the first step. And then you'll see, or over exercising. I remember I used to do that, I ate this piece of cake, so I'm going to go and over exercise, or I would overeat the cake. A little too much, right? And then feel guilty about it and so on. So these would be kind of some of the signs to watch out for.
Every person is different. We know this, but do you see a difference in like what's harder? Is it the fitness side of things or is it the healthy eating side of things?
Yes. I would say it's the healthy eating 1000%.
Interesting.
This is from my experience with almost 10 years as a dietitian now. And that's what I noticed, because when it comes to fitness, let's say you have a structured workout program, right? And you're supposed to do it, let's say, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and these are the number of reps and sets and so on. And you go to the gym. I mean, and I work through that with my clients and setting SMART goals and, okay, what time of the day you're going to go. And, we talk about some challenges around that. But you know what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, you go and do that type of thing. When it comes to food, though, there is that emotional and psychological component. And really, I have to say, in every area in life, like business, food, going to the gym or not going to the gym, there is that mindset shift that we have to, and right. And our thoughts, beliefs. So, I mean, that's the biggest thing. And that's why I have training in all three, but I always start with talking about that first.
Yeah.
And then food, because there's so much to food. There's a social component. There's emotions, the comforts, aspect we were talking about earlier. So, I mean, there's more to it. There's certain things you might have learned as a child, finish your plate, or this food is don't eat this or eat that, or, modeling, what parents do, actually going back to that, as parents, modeling healthy eating behavior as well, because kids learn from seeing what you do as well.
Yeah, it's true.
Like I said, I don't have kids, but I know that, right? They do, and they observe. And so it's really starting, with yourself kind of thing in terms of modeling that behavior. But food, it can be tricky.
It's true. My poor kids. They're going to love caffeine at too young of an age. Oh, dear.
We talk about all these struggles, though. And I mean, these are struggles that Holly and I had growing up. And I mean, that was pre-social media. And then you talk about your struggles at 9. But social media is kind of one of those things that there's good, and then there's not so good. And we get bombarded with a lot of, every person who's giving you fitness advice is all, they all look amazing. And I want to look like them.
I'm trying wall Pilates right now. I saw that on Instagram.
Right. But then you also hear things like, oh, you should be fasting, or you should be intermittent fasting, or you should be eating every 2 hours, or 3 square meals a day. Like, there's so much that we're bombarded with. How do we know what is best for us?
That's a very good question. There is so much out there. And if there's one thing my clients tell me when they come see me, is that they're super confused. I mean, okay, this worked today, now that's coming up tomorrow. What do I do? Right?
Yeah.
And I say that, honestly, all of those things fall in the category of some sort of a diet, right? Like a fad diet type of thing, that restricts, a certain, always thinking about, does this restrict me? So if it's a restriction in the sense of, time, or like intermittent fasting, and I'm not saying that there's no, it's wrong or anything like that, but, anything that's going to focus on restriction or being more of a diet or a fad diet, that's something that's just not going to work long term. So that's why I do the work that I do. And it's not just about, here's as many calories. Okay, bye. It doesn't work like that. That's what I was talking about. The only really way to see the results and sustain them long term is going within, looking at what are your habits. So everybody's different. It's not a one size fits all. We come with, different upbringings, different beliefs around food, different relationships with food and our bodies. And it's very important to explore that. What is your relationship with food? How do you handle food when you're at an event, or how do you handle in this situation? Or, how do you manage stress? Oh, okay. I do stress eat. All right. Okay. That's good information. Yeah. Let's learn a little bit more about that, because when we shift that to healthier habits, and like I said earlier, like a shift of identity, really, then we start doing things differently. And when we focus on doing those things differently and nourishing our body at the same time, then we start seeing the results without obsessing over the results.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. We've definitely been on your own journey. And I'm curious about the Why Me moment because you've brought up a couple of times. So I'd love just to dive into that and just what was going on in your life at that point.
Yeah, and I'd say there's a couple, but maybe I'll kind of start with one and kind of how my mindset shifted.
Yeah.
And there's multiple why me moments, but so many, but focus on a couple that are just coming to my mind. One was at the U of A when I was doing my program. We have to do what's called dietetic internship, which is hospital rotations. And at the time, you get to request where you want to be. And I was like, oh, I'm from Edmonton. A friend of mine from Grand Prairie. She's like, perfect. She's going to request Grand Prairie. I'll request Edmonton. It's going to be great. And they did the opposite.
Oh, wow.
So I ended up in Grand Prairie and it was super cold. It was September, but it was super cold, away from family. And I ended up with a dietitian mentor who now looking back, it was more of, I guess narcissistic tendencies and so I was overworked, completely stressed. And I think that was the first time in my life that I had experienced depression. And it was a real challenge. And I remember I had this old car and it was cold out and the door wouldn't open because I wanted to please this mentor so badly that I would go before she went, she got there and I would leave after and I was overworked. And I remember my car door wouldn't open. I grabbed a knife and I'm like trying to open it. And it was all, a challenge, but I always remembered, my childhood and where I was and, why I wanted to do what I did. But it was so hard. And in that moment, it was, a why me moment. I was really struggling.
Yeah.
And I remember though, at that time, getting in the car when I eventually got in the car, after scraping the snow and so on. And it's just something came to me and, this Bible verse, and I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I just remember, I just feel it in my body now too. And I just remember that just came to me and I just kept saying it out loud while driving. And eventually I got this feeling of peace and courage and just trust that, God's good, and everything's going to be okay. And very soon later, I was chatting with the coordinator and I mentioned some of the challenges and ended up actually going back to Edmonton, go in the hospital I wanted, at the Sturgeon and the Royal Alex and so on, and met so many great people. And I was able to, work there as well. And so, that's kind of how that started in terms of the, how I handled that situation. But, then there was, challenges in terms of starting the business and challenges at the hospital. And just before COVID hit, I got a pretty bad ankle injury, ended up in a wheelchair.
Oh, no.
Crutches and so on. And I was thinking, okay, because the first couple of years in business were hard, but I always remembered that Bible verse, and now it just stays with me. And I remember then COVID hit and I was looking for a clinic to see my clients and there was my ankle and so on. And I remember just kind of looking through on the computer how to use Zoom. What do I do?
Weren't we all?
Yeah. But through that, I just always remembered, that God always has my back, and that just really helped, and always just finding a way. And I learned now, through the work of Tony Robbins, Jack Canfield, and, that is changing our question. So instead of why me, what's God guiding me to right now? Or what's the learning right now? And that really helps me in terms of just trusting that God is there. I'm going to be okay. How can I learn from this? And what are some of the learnings, in the past? Because, challenges are gifts because they are opportunities for us to learn and become stronger for whatever other challenge we're going to face, because that's life. It's just how we handle those challenges is really what matters. And so I started shifting my question now. Now I no longer say, why me? But, okay, God, you got my attention. What's the learning here? What do I need to learn from this? How do I grow from this? And believing that there is a door that's going to be opening right now, and also, doing what I can, what's in my control in that moment. Like, okay, what's in my control? This, great. Like COVID, what's in my control? I can shift things online, figure it out. Yeah. What's out of my control? COVID, there's nothing I can do about that. So it's really shifting to what's in my control, what's the blessing here, and how can I move forward from that?
You talk about your book and Wellness on a Plate. What can people expect from that? Like, am I purchasing it thinking I'm getting like a Company's Coming type cookbook, or am I getting like a Reader's Digest? What am I diving into?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, when I first started my private practice, everybody's busy, right? And so everybody was like, I just want quick and easy meals. Like, I don't want to spend so much time cooking. And I would look up some recipes online to try to find something that's easy. And I find a lot of them were these, gourmet dishes with, I always joke that you need to, buy the spice from India to make the, to make the meal. Yeah. And it's so complicated.
Yes.
So I was like, wow, like, why can't I find something here? And so this is where the idea for the book kind of started, is creating recipes that are so quick and easy, like 30 minutes or less, some are 5 minutes, like an assembly, but taste good too, because it's really about enjoying this health journey versus thinking, oh, if I'm going to eat healthy, it's going to be boring and tasteless. And it's going to take so much time. So this is where the book came about. So, quick and easy meals. And I interviewed a lot of people to learn about, okay, what types of spices do you already have at home? And I tried to kind of use, those as a guideline for the combinations that I came up with for the recipes. And people have been loving it because it's so easy. We have to think about what's realistic too, right?
Yeah.
So that's one thing. It's all diabetes friendly. There's a lot of gluten-free options there too. But I decided to also make it educational. So there's a lot of information in the book. In the beginning of the book, educational about what does a balanced meal look like, carbs, proteins, fats, and much more. And I have little sections in there that are like myth busting or frequently asked questions about certain things that I answered, in between. And I calculated, the calories and all that information for the meals as well. So people are aware. So it was a really fun journey. It was 3 years in the making, actually. And I wanted it to be very authentic. So I, took upon me to learn food photography, but no, I was like, I'm going to do this. So, I retook every picture probably 10 to 20 times. But, when people open it, they say that, there's this homey kind of feeling. And so I like that. That's kind of the idea of the book, that it's easy. If there's anything I want people to feel is feel empowered on this journey. I don't want anybody to feel, defeated in any way, right? It's tough enough, so the mix of compassion and motivation, right?
For sure. Why did you make the cookbook diabetes friendly?
Just because there's, a lot of the clientele I see, has diabetes. And honestly, actually, here's the thing. Actually, diabetes friendly is just healthy eating.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. And actually, this helps a lot of my diabetes clients. Before I started my private practice, I worked in diabetes for 3 years. And honestly, it's all about behavior change too. But I tell my diabetes clients, when they get diagnosed, I say to them, diabetes is just healthy eating. We all, like that's the ideal healthy eating, because what's the diabetes eating? It's just balanced meals. Yes, there are some differences, but really it's going to be more, what the differences are is going to be more through me coaching the client, about what to do. Just a book, the book has the recipes that everybody can follow, diabetes or not. But, coaching around it, is really what matters. But really it's just healthy eating, being mindful of how much sugar we're eating. I think everybody could benefit from that, right?
Yeah.
Diabetes or not, there might be some differences in timing, and how it affects blood sugars, but our blood sugars also affect our cravings, our hunger and fullness. Again, everybody would benefit from that anyways, right? So
yeah.
Hannah Deacon dietitian.com at HD_dietitian on the Insta. Last one for you, Hannah. My wife in the fridge has left me salmon, some quinoa, and mixed veggies. But in the back of the fridge, there's a half an apple pie. If I take off the crust, which one do I choose?
I love it. I love the salmon dish.
Okay.
Very balanced. You got your quinoa, which is a whole grain, salmon, healthy fats, protein. You got your vegetables. And honestly, with the apple pie, I mean, it's all about frequency, how often you're going for apple pie. And actually, I have a healthy apple crumble recipe in the book. You can
There you go.
Good plug.
There you go. You can have your cake and eat it too. Or in this case, your pie and eat it too.
Oh, Holly.
Exactly. Yeah. It's all about balance, right?
And I appreciate you so much. Thank you for taking some time and hanging out with us.
Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
Am I surprised on some of the answers? No.
You shouldn't be.
Was I hoping that maybe she would be like, yeah, eat an apple pie, guy?
Yeah.
Yes, I was.
It's not what you got today, though, Johnny.
No, it's isn't it like the 80-20 rule? 80% is what you eat, or 90-10?
Something like that.
90% of what you eat and 10% of fitness?
I don't remember that quote or that stat.
I'm like a 0-0.
That's so funny and not accurate. So let's not let people think that you are not eating healthy. You eat.
No, for sure. I kid because I care and I joke because I love.
Yeah.
But it is also a good conversation to have when it comes to dietitians and healthy eating, because there are those who really do struggle. And I think, having someone like Hannah to press into your life and say, just make healthier choices. It's not easy. And there's a reason why we struggle with obesity, but let's work one step at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how her faith is truly the foundation for her fitness and her food, and how everything is approached from, her relationship with God, and how when we can love ourselves, we can truly love other people in a beautiful way too.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Shout out to Mike for sending us Hannah. Yes. Anybody of the Projector family, if you have somebody that we should be talking to, reach out to us or reach out to them and say, go and talk to Johnny and Holly, because we're approaching 300 episodes.
We are. Where's the time gone?
I don't know.
Can we celebrate with a cake?
Yes, gluten-free, sugar-free, tasteless, but it'll be a cake.
Perfect. I can't wait.
Anyways, thank you to everyone who downloaded Apple Podcast, Spotify, and who jumps on all of our socials like YouTube. We're trying to grow that.
Yeah. So thank you for being a part of the journey. And of course, you can always get more information at faithstrongtoday.com.